Chen Mu traveled through the three kingdoms and was once under the tutelage of Mr. Shuijing. As the world was governed by clans, Chen Mu was disliked by his classmates for coming out of a humble family dressed in cloth. Especially, he loved to study strange and obscene techniques, and was hailed as a sparrow. At that time, all the senior brothers went down the mountain to worship Liu Bei and Jiangdong respectively, except for Chen Mu, who became the vanguard in Cao Camp. But while Zhuge Liang and Zhou were guiding the world, unexpectedly, Chen Mu had already exposed his own strategies one by one. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The wise man joins the game, half grilled at the beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The moonlight is like water, and the night breeze gently brushes the branches. In Cao Cao's camp, a cook wrapped in red cloth stepped out of the tent, his lazy posture in stark contrast to the rigorous military discipline. I'm afraid it's already past 3 shifts, and even my cook is so hungry that he can't sleep. It's really dereliction of duty. He looked up at the bright moon, with a hint of self-deprecation on his lips. I, as a passerby, have become a cook and care about whether I am competent or not. It's really ridiculous. This person is Chen Mu, a person who has traveled through time and woke up to find himself in the Three Kingdoms period. I thought his understanding of the history of the Three Kingdoms would make him a soldier, but reality poured cold water on him. During the Three Kingdoms period, aristocratic families and clans were like chess players controlling the world. But Chen Mu is just a commoner. It is not easy to stand out, coupled with the continuous war, it is fortunate to be able to live. Fortunately, the travel time is still early, and those famous strategists have not yet emerged. Chen Mu plans to coat himself with gold first, in order to find a good way out in the future. The so-called gilding refers to having a reputation under a renowned master, and this reputation must be well known, otherwise it is difficult to be valued. Noble families, nobles, and generals all value this. Chen Mu was well versed in history and naturally knew that the strongest school of thought in the Three Kingdoms was none other than Mr. Shuijing and Sima Hui. Sima Hui also had a nickname, known as Good Recommendation Teacher, because he would recommend suitable jobs for his disciples and could be called a good teacher and beneficial friend. So Chen Mu approached Sima Hui and shamelessly became his disciple. He studied with Zhuge Liang, Pang Tong, and Su Shu, but was not considered a friend and had a grudge against Zhuge Liang. Zhuge Liang has now established himself under Liu Bei's command, but Su Shu returned to Cao without saying a word. Pang Tong went to Jiangdong to seek employment. I don't know how Pang Tong is doing. He sighed and reminisced about that time of studying. There are many disciples under Sima Hui's sect, among which Zhuge Liang, Pang Tong, and Chen Mu are the most famous. The first two are highly praised for their exceptional talent and intelligence, while Chen Mu is known for his lack of dedication to his profession. Zhuge Liang and Pang Tong had exceptional talents, were diligent and eager to learn, and achieved remarkable results. They were bestowed with the titles of Wulong and Feng Chu by Sima Hui. Chen Mu is not dull, on the contrary, his understanding of the history of the Three Kingdoms made him well versed in the overall situation of the world. However, he often studied small things that were considered bizarre and obscene at the time. This greatly disappointed Sima Hui, who gave him the nickname Sparrow, mocking him for having great ambitions but lacking real talent and knowledge. Zhuge Liang also disdained Chen Mu's research, relying on his intelligence, coupled with his noble background, treating Chen Mu more like charity and pity. Therefore, in order to fight for a breath, Chen Mu often had a sharp confrontation with Zhuge Liang. However, due to Sima Hui's preference, Chen Mu was always punished each time, and over time, their relationship became increasingly tense. Every time Chen Mu is punished, he always wears a look of, "You can't understand me," which makes his fellow senior brothers criticize him. Chen Mu never defended himself because he believed that arguing with fools would only lower his intelligence. In his eyes, only Zhuge and Pang Tong could be considered opponents, while Su Shu could barely count as half. However, due to Pang Tong's poor appearance and short stature, he was also despised by Sima Hui, which actually led to a good private relationship between him and Chen Mu. The two often cooked wine in the quiet of the night to discuss the overall situation of the world. Perhaps due to the privileges of the traveler, Chen Mu has exceptional learning abilities. Classic books such as Spring and Autumn Annals, Shuijing, and Strategies of the Warring States are readily available, and military formations, astronomy, and geography are also effortless. He just disdains showing off to others. On the day of graduation, Chen Mu specifically found Zhuge Liang and pointed at him, saying, "Wait and see, the world will change because of me. Master will understand that even sparrows can have amazing talents and know that I am better than you." Zhuge Liang did not get angry, but looked at Chen Mu with a pitiful and intellectually disabled gaze. Looking back at that time, Chen Mu's cheeks were burning, and he felt that he was too young and reckless. How could he say such shameful words? After graduating under the guidance of Sima Hui, the senior brothers went their separate ways, searching for the wise master to showcase their talents or retreating to wait for the opportunity. At this time, Chen Mu inspected two people, Liu Bei and Sun Quan. But due to being remembered only under the name Sparrow during his studies, even Sima Hui did not want to mention him, and Liu Bei did not take him seriously. Later, he went to Jiangdong to seek employment, but due to his lack of prominent family background, Sun Quan also looked down on him, which made him disheartened, and he went to Cao Cao's place to work as a cook. His bold words were forgotten by him at the beginning, but there was always a fire in his heart that made him unwilling. Is it really difficult for ordinary people without backgrounds to stand out? Even worse, shortly after joining Cao's camp, Xiaohodan was burned down by a large fire on Boangpo. Cao Cao was furious and personally led a 500,000-strong army southward, intending to wipe out Jingzhou and swallow the eastern part of the river in one fell swoop. The fire on Boangpo was the first one ignited by Zhuge Liang, and since then, Zhuge Liang's name, Crouching Dragon, has been spreading throughout the world. Unfortunately, my 1,000-mile horse did not encounter Bo, otherwise I might not be inferior to Wulong. At that time, it was a swallow swallowing a dragon, hee. Chen Mu fantasized for a while, sighed, put away his smile, and walked towards the kitchen. I thought there should be some big cakes left during the day, and for him, filling his stomach is the most important thing. It is said that marching is difficult. Since becoming a cook, Chen Mu truly understands the meaning of this sentence. He has to provide food for hundreds of thousands of soldiers every day, and each cook is too busy to touch the ground. Self-proclaimed genius, but busy with the stove every day, gradually eroded Chen Mu's spirit. Just as Chen Mu stepped into the makeshift kitchen, a group of people happened to arrive here. The leader was 7 feet tall, without armor, only wearing casual clothes, and wearing a long sword at his waist. He couldn't help but stop when he saw Chen Mu enter the kitchen. At midnight, stepping into the cooking shed, is it a shortage of food and grass? I need to go and inquire. Thinking in his heart, the man stepped into the cooking shed. After all, the supply of food was related to the victory or defeat of the war, and there was no room for any negligence. He waved his hand behind him, gesturing for everyone to remain silent. You guys keep patrolling. Everyone bowed and left, with only one tough guy remaining in place. This man is exceptionally tall, as fierce as a bear or tiger, exuding a fierce aura that is awe-inspiring. If Chen Mu were here, he would surely be able to recognize this person as Su Chu, who is known as the Tiger Idiot. Only a tiger maniac can have such power. And the one who can make tiger idiots follow is Cao Cao, also known as Cao Mengde, who is known as the warlord of chaotic times. Cao Cao walked into the cooking shed alone, while Su Chu waited outside. Under the moonlight, he saw Chen Mu squatting on the ground, chewing a big cake, with a sound like a mouse nibbling. Chen Mu didn't expect anyone to come to the cooking shed so late and was momentarily stunned at the door. After a moment, he stood up and said to the visitor, "Are you hungry too? There are cakes here, eat some to satisfy your hunger." As it was late at night, the cooking shed was not lit, and Chen Mu did not see the appearance of the newcomer clearly. He only regarded him as an old soldier searching for food. Seeing Cao Cao motionless, Chen Mu smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. You just eat. Treat me like an ordinary veteran. Well, it's more convenient to ask questions." Cao Cao pondered in his heart, took half a cake, and smiled, saying, "Are you a cook? Isn't this obvious?" Chen Mu pointed to the red cloth wrapped around his finger, still chewing non-stop. He was really hungry. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Wonders in Cooking Camp. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh, even cooks get hungry. Is there a problem with the food? Cao Cao asked calmly. Chen Mu didn't have any doubts. As both soldiers, he answered straightforwardly. Of course it's not about food, I'm just starving. He looked at Cao Cao and although he couldn't see his face clearly, his figure was faintly visible. He then joked. Look at your short stature, your appetite is not small. Cao Cao suddenly felt a little unhappy. It was the first time someone had mocked him in person, and his hand had quietly grasped the hilt of the sword at his waist. Chen Mu was completely unaware of the danger and said. Don't worry about eating. If you don't feel full in the future, you can come to me. Maybe one day I can make some jerky for you. Upon hearing this, Cao Cao's anger subsided slightly and he thought to himself. The cook's mouth is open, but his heart is still kind. It's okay, there's no need to argue with him. Cao Cao wanted to leave, but was actively persuaded by Chen Mu to stay. He mysteriously took out a gourd from a corner and held it in front of Cao Cao like a treasure. Smell this. Chen Mu pulled out the stopper, and the aroma of wine instantly drifted into Cao Cao's nose. Wine. Cao Cao frowned. Do you know that soldiers in the military are strictly prohibited from drinking alcohol? Chen Mu chuckled and said. If we don't say anything, who knows? This is something I've put in a lot of effort to keep. Keep it down, don't let the patrol hear me. After speaking, he took 2 bowls and filled them with wine, hastily serving them into his mouth. Oh, it's really a great wine, Chen Mu's face was contented and he smiled, saying. This is to be given to Prime Minister Cao. I only kept half of the pot in private. Hey, you can try it too. Cao Cao felt a wave of helplessness in his heart, clearly indicating that the cook was just greedy for a glass and wanted to find someone to share the fine wine with. Suddenly feeling dejected, he stood up and wanted to leave, even planning to give this person a good lesson after leaving. Unexpectedly, as soon as he got up, he saw a piece of fur falling out of Chen Mu's arms. One corner was unfolding under the moonlight, and it was vaguely visible that it was covered in patterns. What is this? He asked curiously. Chen Mu drank another glass of wine, spread out his fur on the ground, and proudly said. This is a marching map, which I can easily create in my leisure time. Cao Cao was taken aback and quickly took a closer look under the moonlight. Indeed, he saw a map drawn on the palm-sized fur, which was a detailed drawing of the location where they were currently stationed. The map is meticulously detailed, with every corner and surrounding terrain of the campsite clearly depicted. Even the routes for movement and retreat, as well as the analysis of the campsite layout and terrain, are marked on the side. This kind of map was also the first time Cao Cao saw it, and he felt novel and shocking. Did you really draw it? Cao Cao couldn't believe that a greedy chef could possess such talent. Chen Mu drank another glass, his face turning red and he said with a hint of pride. What's the point of drawing? I'm a knowledgeable and talented person who knows everything about military strategy, astronomy, and geography, but no one appreciates me. Although Cao Cao didn't like people who talk empty talk, the cook in front of him clearly had some skills, so he asked. May I ask where the teacher came from, sir? When asked about his background, Chen Mu felt restless in his heart. He was also someone who valued his family background, so he quickly waved his hand. Don't mention it, drink, drink. This actually aroused Cao Cao's curiosity even more, and he advised. A man should have aspirations in all directions. If he has a good plan, he should find a stage to show his skills instead of wasting his time here. Chen Mu remained indifferent. He said again. Even if you don't consider yourself, you should also consider your family and friends. If you achieve something, your family and friends can still live better, right? Chen Mu sighed. How can others understand his disappointment and despair after 2 setbacks? Besides, he traveled alone and can be said to have no relatives or worries. Cao Cao saw that Chen Mu refused to eat either soft or hard. After thinking for a moment, he looked at the wine in his hand and thought to himself. Sir, wait a moment, I'll come right after I go. Watching Cao Cao leave the kitchen, Chen Mu felt bored. After putting away the map, he drank alone and murmured. Unfortunately, the good wine can only be paired with pancakes, it's really a waste. Outside the kitchen, Cao Cao called Su Chu aside. You go get a jar of wine and some cooked meat. Su Chu was quite dissatisfied in his heart. He had just listened to the conversation in the kitchen clearly outside. Lord, I see that kid is just pretending, why bother paying attention to him? Hehe, whether you are a dragon or a phoenix among people or a mediocre person, just give it a try. You go quickly. Cao Cao smiled and ordered. Su Chu had no choice but to take the order and prepare wine and meat. Not long after, Cao Cao returned to the kitchen carrying wine and meat, and Chen Mu immediately smelt the tempting aroma. He stood up in surprise. Where did you get this from? Only generals are eligible to enjoy this kind of good thing. Cao Cao placed the wine and meat on the table and replied with a smile. This is a reward from the general, please enjoy it, sir. You're so generous. Chen Mu picked up a piece of grilled meat and stuffed it into his mouth, eating it all greasy and not forgetting to say to Cao Cao. Don't worry, if I have something to eat in the future, I won't make you hungry. Seeing Chen Mu so happy, Cao Cao asked politely. If you are really a talented person, why not meet with Prime Minister Cao? Alas, in this world, what is valued is one's background. I come from a humble background and I'm afraid I'll be neglected. It's better to be a cook and be free. Chen Mu looked melancholic and finally expressed his worries in his heart. Cao Cao raised his eyebrows and asked in a deep voice. Why don't you tell me the details? Perhaps it was the days of being a cook that brought a lot of bitterness, or perhaps it was the surge of alcohol that made Chen Mu seem to open the door to conversation. Then I will analyze the overall situation of the world for you. There are 3 people I am optimistic about now. First is our Prime Minister Cao, who defeated Yuan Shao and became the strongest feudal lords. He also took control of the emperor and commanded the great men under his name. He had numerous civil and military officials, as well as numerous soldiers and horses under his command. Prime Minister Cao himself is also talented and strategic, but unfortunately. Cao Cao's eyes flickered, and upon hearing Chen Mu's praise of Cao's army, he couldn't help but feel secretly happy. However, Chen Mu's words suddenly stopped when he talked about himself, which made Cao Cao quite depressed. He quickly asked. What about Prime Minister Cao? Chen Mu took a sip of wine and continued. Prime Minister Cao has the ability to govern the country, but he is overly suspicious and comes from an official family. Although he holds the throne, he is called a Han thief and his name is not correct and his words are not smooth. Cao Cao remained silent for a moment. Although on the surface he didn't care about being called a traitor or a Han thief, who wouldn't want to leave a name in history and leave a lasting legacy. Saying you don't care is just self-comforting. Chen Mu did not stop and continued to elaborate. The current situation of the Cao army is not easy, with Ma Teng from Xiliang and Zhang Lu from Hanzhong to the west, and Liu Bei and Liu Bei to the south. To the southeast, there is also Jiangdong with a fierce eye. Even if Yuan Shao is annihilated, he will still be attacked on three sides and cannot be taken lightly. Pointing out the strengths and weaknesses of Chao's army, Cao was convinced and asked. Who is the other person? Chen Mu looked up and took a big sip of wine, feeling a bit drunk. Another is Sun Quan from Jiangdong, who occupies the rich Jiangdong region with abundant resources and has trained a world-class navy. Although there are numerous aristocratic families, there are also many talented individuals who are powerful forces that can compete with the Cao army. Chapter 3. The three defeats of Chao's army. There is no doubt that Chao's army will be defeated in this battle. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Unfortunately, Sun Tzu's younger brother Sun Quan is skilled in political planning, and the aristocratic families in Jiangdong are satisfied with the status quo. Most of Sun Quan's civil servants are as timid as mice, and he doesn't like me, let alone me. Compared to his father and brother, he is nothing but a small wizard. The situation is too small to ascend to the Hall of Elegance. Cao listened to his evaluation of Sun Quan and Jiangdong, and although he felt that Chen Mu was a bit arrogant, he patiently asked. Who is the other person? Chen Mu showed a mysterious smile and said, Liu Bei Xuanda. Cao was taken aback and sneered. Are you joking? A commoner who weaves and sells grass shoes. Moreover, Liu Bei's performance in the discussion of heroes during that time was indeed disappointing. Although he had lost to Liu Bei once, he did not believe that Liu Bei could become his arch-rival, or rather, he never truly valued Liu Bei. Chen Mu shook his head repeatedly, pointing to the sky, pretending to be mysterious and saying. You don't understand, Liu Bei's generals are slowly rising. Watching Cao's face full of confusion, he laughed and said. Liu Bei may seem to lose frequently, but he never gives up. No matter where he goes, he can leave a reputation for benevolence. With a wave of his hand, the people follow him, and this kind of person is the most terrifying. And soon, he will have his own base and compete for the world. Cao was shocked by Chen Mu's resolute words. That's right, Liu Bei has stood firm for many years, and this resilience is enough to make people dare not underestimate him. Unfortunately, Chen Mu shook his head. Liu Bei's vision is just like that. Judging people based on their appearance is really chilling. Chen Mu once went to seek refuge with Liu Bei, but was met with cold treatment. Even when Pang Tong later sought refuge with Liu Bei, he was looked down upon due to his appearance, which angered Chen Mu in his heart. Without any accidents, these three people will determine the situation of three parts of the world. Chen Mu said with certainty. After all, these are all historical records and there can be no mistakes. Cao was secretly surprised. After all, even any strategist could speak eloquently about the overall situation of the world. But those who dare to predict the rise of Liu Bei to three parts of the world, no one dares to speak up. Either a genius or an arrogant person. Then, Chen Mu casually said a sentence, which once again made Cao nervous. Unfortunately, if Prime Minister Cao sends General Cao Ren to attack Liu Bei in Xinye, he will definitely be defeated and return home. Chen Mu's words made Cao's face uncertain. He rolled his eyes and suddenly burst out laughing twice. I think the gentleman's words are too exaggerated. Liu Bei's troops and horses are only a few thousand, and his generals are few and far between. Even if he has the ability to withstand the attack of the Cao army, he cannot resist it. Moreover, the leader of the army was Cao Ren, a fierce general under the Prime Minister's command. With both intelligence and courage, he commands a 50,000 strong army, 50,000 against a few thousand. His advantage is obvious, and he will never fail like Xiahou Dun. Cao Cao was full of confidence and refuted Chen Mu. He had no idea how Cao Ren would be defeated. Chen Mu, however, let out a leisurely hiccup, feeling full and eager to go back to sleep, but seeing Cao Cao's confident appearance, he chuckled twice and extended 3 fingers. Cao Jun had 3 mistakes. Firstly, it was a natural opportunity. At this moment, it was deep autumn, dry and with little rain, and the temperature difference between day and night was huge. The soldiers were inevitably restless and their mentality was imbalanced, which could easily lead to errors. Next is the terrain. Chao's army launched a long-distance attack, while Lu's army waited patiently and had sufficient preparation time. Moreover, Chao's army had already suffered a defeat, and at this moment, they were only determined to seek revenge and launch a fierce attack. They thought they would win without a doubt, but their proud soldiers would be defeated. Furthermore, it is the people's hearts. After many years of governance by Liu Bei, the people of Xinye have all turned to Liu Bei and regarded the Cao army as a fierce tiger in a flood. In this situation, the people will surely unite. Liu Bei sat in Xinye with favorable timing, location, and people, and Zhuge Kongming was on his side. This person had almost divine intelligence and a deep understanding of military strategy, and was highly valued by Liu Bei. He commanded the entire army, and it was not difficult for him to win more with less. Chen Mu's analysis made Cao Cao tremble with fear, and an ominous feeling arose. Earlier, Xiahou Dun suffered a great defeat at Bawangpo. Some people mentioned Zhuge Liang, saying that he was 10 times stronger than Su Shu, but Cao Cao did not pay attention at that time. Now it seems that the collaboration between Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang has become a major challenge for him. However, Chen Mayan's chiseling was carried with a drunken demeanor. Cao Cao was naturally suspicious and never believed people easily, let alone the drunken words of a cook he met for the first time. Despite his inner turmoil, Cao Cao still chose not to believe, saying it was unwillingness, but in fact, he dared not. If it is as Chen Mu expected, does it not mean that this cook is more brilliant than all his advisors? Cao Cao stared at Chen Mu, his eyes still sharp in the darkness. After a while, he asked, "May I ask your esteemed name?" "My name remains unchanged, my surname remains unchanged. I am Chen Mu, Chen Aotian." This is the character he chose for himself during his studies. After all, as a traveler, before crossing, there were only names without words, so he took whatever came to his mind. Aotian. Cao Cao felt a bit dizzy even without drinking alcohol. This word was too arrogant, so arrogant that it was speechless. But he still nodded, took note of his name, and continued. "Sir, you're already drunk. Let's go rest. I'll come visit again another day." Cao Cao turned around and left the kitchen. As he was about to leave, Chen Mu uttered astonishing words. "Water and fire blend together, and he is about to be defeated. This sounds like a drunken man's nonsense." Su Chu widened his eyes. "Lord, I'm going to kill this kid. How dare I say something that shakes the morale of the army? His heart can be punished." Although Cao Cao was angry, he could only sigh when he saw no one around him. Anyway, this person cannot be killed. Let's wait for news from Cao Ren. Also, send someone to watch over this cook and don't let him run away. Recalling Chen Mu's previous remarks, Cao Cao speculated that Chen Mu may have run into a wall with Liu Bei and Sun Quan, and it was unclear whether the two knew each other. Chen Mu still has no real talent and knowledge, so he can only leave it to time to answer. A gust of night breeze blew by, and Chen Mu wrapped his clothes tightly, feeling a hint of coldness. He opened his eyes and found himself alone in the kitchen, with all the food and drinks on the table being swept away. Hey, it's really a big meal this time. I chew hard mantu every day, and I'm going to become mantu. He belched heavily and organized the kitchen in an orderly manner. I was about to go back to the tent to rest when suddenly I patted my forehead. Oh my, I drank so much alcohol that I forgot to ask the old soldier his name. Next time, I need to prepare some wine and meat to treat him back. Although he felt a bit regretful, he didn't pay much attention and went straight into the tent to sleep soundly. From this day on, there will always be soldiers secretly peeking around his tent. Cao Cao returned to his tent, and Chen Mu's words echoed in his mind, making him restless. He couldn't wait to verify the truth of Chen Mu's prophecy. However, Cao Ren has been away for several days, and it is estimated that he will arrive in Xinya by tomorrow at the latest. No matter what he thinks now, the result cannot be changed. I don't believe Cao Ren will lose. Chen Mu, that kid, is at best a guess. How accurate can he be? In Chapter 4, Zhuge is like a fish in water. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cao Cao has always been suspicious, but he is not someone who cannot listen to the opinions of others. Even if he doesn't believe Chen Mu's words, he will still be prepared. If he's right, it means that Liu Bei is a major concern in my heart and I can't let him continue to live. At that time, we must bring a large army to the border and completely solve Liu Bei. As for Chen Mu, let's take a look first. If he really has the ability, it's not too late to invite him out of the mountain. If you don't want to serve me, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Chen Mu was completely unaware that he had been targeted and was still dreaming. On the other side, outside Shinana Castle, a dark army was stationed there, silent and solemn, like ghosts in the dark night. The military flag hunted and rustled in the night breeze, with a prominent Cao embroidered on it. At the forefront of the team, a burly general wearing armor stood tall, his face was resolute, with a hint of anger in his eyes, and he exuded a calm and confident aura. Even the warhorses he rode on were silently moving forward. This immediate general is Cao Ren and Cao Zixiao, who are known as the Heavenly God Generals. He led his army to Xinya and ordered them to continue their journey at night, in order to launch a surprise attack on Xinya and seize the opportunity. However, soon a scout arrived in front of Cao Ren and bent down to report. Report to General, Shinana Castle is already empty. Cao Ren was taken aback, his eyes narrowed slightly. Empty. Did Liu Bei abandon Xinya? At this moment, the deputy general beside him rode forward. General, that cunning Liu Bei actually slipped away early, what a coward, and that Kongming kid, I don't think he's just that. He dares not even engage in a frontal confrontation and even claims to be a crouching dragon. I think he's just a cowardly bug. Another deputy general also joined in and agreed. I think they probably ran for their lives because they were afraid of the general's reputation. Cao Ren had no doubts, after all, he led 50,000 troops, Cao Cao had hundreds of thousands of troops behind him, and Liu Bei only had a few thousand people. Escaping seemed to be the only way out. It's okay, set up camp in the city, gather strength, and pursue Liu Bei tomorrow. Pass the order, do not harass the people after entering the city, violators will be dealt with according to military law. He waved his arm and led the troops into the city. The messenger quickly conveyed the instructions, and the army immediately rushed into various streets and alleys, starting to build temporary camps. The soldiers who were originally nervous about preparing for battle found their target missing, and their morale immediately dropped, appearing exhausted. Cao Ren quickly noticed something unusual. Not only did Liu Bei disappear, but even the citizens seemed to disappear collectively, leaving behind an empty city. Many soldiers are too lazy to set up tents and break into residential buildings to rest. There's something strange, pass on the order, everyone be vigilant. Cao Ren felt a strong sense of unease in his heart, as if sensing an impending disaster, and immediately summoned a messenger. However, it is too late now. General, it's not good, there's a fire in the city. A deputy general covered in scorch broke into the camp and reported in tears. Cao Ren walked out quickly and saw a blazing fire in the city, with flames raging rapidly and thick smoke billowing into the sky. Countless soldiers screamed and struggled in pain in the flames. Put out the fire. Hurry up and put out the fire. Help us. Ah! The mournful cries for help echoed through the city, and everyone was terrified. This empty city seemed to have become their burial ground. Cao Ren gritted his teeth and his body trembled uncontrollably. That's it, I was once again tricked by that kid Zhuge Liang. The flames in Xinye city were raging, causing chaos and countless casualties for the Cao army. Cao Ren witnessed all of this, with regret and anger intertwined in his heart. Suddenly, a troop rushed out from the sea of fire, led by a general dressed in white armor, holding a silver spear and standing out in the dark. Follow me to join the Cao army. The white-armored general led the way and charged straight into the enemy's formation. With the help of a spear, he pierced through 3 Cao soldiers, then swept across and repelled several enemies. He has unparalleled momentum, rushing into the enemy's formation like a fierce wind sweeping leaves, mercilessly harvesting life, and piercing the heart of the Cao army like a sharp blade. Due to chaos, the Cao army was unable to convey orders and was unprepared. They were instantly defeated, resulting in countless deaths and injuries. Cao Ren, who was in the distance, witnessed this scene and his angry eyes widened. He gritted his teeth and called out the name, Zhao Yun. That fierce general in white armor is Zhao Yun and Zhao Zilong, the perennial victorious general under Liu Bei's command. General, there is no fire at the west gate, retreat quickly. A reconnaissance soldier rushed over, jumped off his horse's back, knelt on one knee, with a slight tremble in his voice. Cao Ren gave Zhao Yun a resentful glance and loudly ordered. Withdraw. Everyone turned over and mounted their horses, leading the remaining troops to evacuate towards the west gate. Zhao Yun sneered twice when he saw Cao Ren and others fleeing to the west gate. Cao Ren is done, the strategist's strategy is really brilliant. Immediately, he commanded his soldiers to start clearing the remaining Cao army in the city. Cao Ren led his army to retreat in embarrassment, but his negligence this time led him directly into the city, resulting in this disastrous defeat. At the thought of Cao Cao's reproachful gaze, his teeth clenched and he was filled with resentment. This account will definitely be repaid 10 times in the future. After withdrawing from the city, Cao Ren finally felt a little relieved, but after counting the number of people, the 50,000 army now only had 20,000 left, resulting in more than half of the losses. Only a portion of the supplies were salvaged, while the rest were reduced to ashes in the city. Numerous soldiers looked at the blazing city of Shinana and couldn't help but cry uncontrollably. Their comrades in arms, even their loved ones, were mostly trapped in the city and buried in the flames. The crowd was filled with grief and sorrow. Let's go find the army to gather and borrow troops from the Prime Minister. We must be ashamed. Cao Ren boosted his morale, but the soldiers were exhausted, thirsty and hungry, and moving slowly. Even with only half of their troops left, they still had over 20,000 soldiers. Cao Ren estimated that Liu Bei dared not act rashly, so there was no strong attack. Soon, they arrived at the Baishui River, and the hungry and thirsty soldiers saw that the river was not deep and ran to drink water. Sigh. Looking at his subordinates, Cao Ren couldn't help but sigh. Suddenly, there came the roar of surging water. Wow! Everyone turned their heads and looked up the river, only to see a flood rushing towards them, instantly drowning the soldiers drinking by the river. Cao Ren was shocked and immediately pulled back. While looking upstream, he saw many torches flickering, indicating that someone had been ambushed long ago. Damn it! On the upper reaches of the Baishui River, a 9-foot-tall, pale-faced, long-bearded man holding a cold serrated sword stood tall, with bright eyes and a heroic aura. At this moment, the red-faced man's face was filled with joy and he kept laughing. Ha ha ha! The strategist's strategy is indeed ingenious, but unfortunately he was unable to fight on horseback, which is truly regrettable. This red-faced man is Liu Bei's sworn brother, Guan Yu and Guan Yunchang, who are full of righteousness. He coldly witnessed the Cao army being washed away by the flood upstream, fleeing in panic, and gently stroking his beard in his hands. The surviving soldiers of the Cao army were scared out of their wits, closely following Cao Ren with a frightened expression. Zhuge Liang's strategy left a deep shadow on them. After escaping far away, Cao Renkai counted the number of people and found that he only had less than 3,000 soldiers and horses left, and all the food and supplies were lost. In Chapter 5, he guessed everything right. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Liu Bei, the old thief, I am at odds with you. He gritted his teeth and said this sentence, leading the remaining soldiers forward without daring to delay for a moment. Quickly, they arrived at the bowling ferry, and Cao Ren breathed a sigh of relief. Once we reach here, we can go down the river and escape from Sheng Tian. As soon as the words fell, a roar erupted like thunder. Cao Ren, your third grandfather is here. I saw a black-faced man riding a horse and rushing towards me, holding a 10-foot-8 snake spear. His eyes were wide and angry, as if a demon had descended under the firelight. Zhang Fei. The black-faced man is Liu Bei's sworn brother, Zhang Fei and Jiangdong, who claim to possess unstoppable courage. Cao Ren's face changed dramatically, and he didn't expect a series of strategies to come one after another. They didn't even have a chance to catch their breath. Zhuge Liang, who was just starting out, calculated their retreat route perfectly, and the rumors were not false. Helpless, he had no choice but to wave his weapons and lead his remaining troops to resist Zhang Fei. However, at this moment, the Cao army had no fighting spirit, and Zhang Fei was incredibly brave. In a moment, 3,000 Cao soldiers fled into the wilderness, howling in sorrow. But after all, Cao Ren was a famous general who led hundreds of soldiers to break through Zhang Fei's blockade and fled the battlefield without looking back. After Zhang Fei eliminated all the resisting Cao army and captured the surrenderers, he looked at Cao Ren who had gone far away and laughed heartily. Today, you have witnessed the majesty of Yan's Jiangdong. Liu Bei's army had previously suffered consecutive defeats and had not achieved a decent victory, until Zhuge Liang's joining changed their situation. Therefore, whether it was Zhao Yun, Guan Yu, or Zhang Fei, they were all incredibly happy, as if sweeping away years of suppressed depression. Cao Ren had a 50,000-strong army, with only a few hundred cavalry left to flee in panic. This great victory made people feel relieved. On the highlands outside Shinana Castle, a middle-aged man dressed in armor, with ears hanging over his shoulders and a jade-like face, was listening to the scouts' report. I heard that Cao Ren had only a few hundred people left to flee in a hurry, and his eyes sparkled with light. This person is Liu Bei and Liu Xuande, with 2 long swords hanging around his waist. Beside Liu Bei, there was also an elegant scholar dressed in a white robe, holding a feather fan in his hand, and wearing a silk scarf on his head. He was 8 feet tall, dignified, and often wore an indifferent smile at the corner of his mouth, as if everything was under his control. Such attire, only the renowned philosopher Zhuge Liang from ancient times. Kong Ming, did you hear that? We won, big win. Getting sir is like fish getting water. Liu Bei excitedly grabbed Zhuge Liang's hand and said excitedly. Lord, this battle is at the right time, with favorable terrain and harmonious people. Victory is inevitable. Zhuge Liang answered humbly, but his expression was proud, revealing the superiority of a wise man. Liu Bei laughed heartily and said. With Kong Ming present, Xinye is like a copper wall and an iron wall. Even if Cao Cao comes personally, he is not a match for the military. Although Zhuge Liang was happy in his heart, he had to pour cold water on Liu Bei to keep him sober. Lord, Xinye cannot be defended. We only have a few thousand soldiers and horses in our hands. When Cao Cao leads hundreds of thousands of troops to kill us, we will be at a loss, so we must withdraw. Liu Bei instantly woke up from the joy of victory. Yes, Cao Cao had hundreds of thousands of troops. So, military officer, where should we retreat? Jingzhou. Zhuge Liang had already planned a way out. Prince Liu Qi developed well in Jiangxia, and Jiangxia is an important town with abundant resources, which can be temporarily avoided. Sigh, Liu Bei sighed. I can only do this. I just can't bear to abandon the people of Xinye. Zhuge Liang respectfully saluted Liu Bei. My lord is kind. If you don't want to abandon the people, let them go together, but the speed of their journey will inevitably be slow. That's how we do it. Liu Bei nodded firmly. After Liu Bei left, Zhuge Liang looked at the distant night and whispered. At critical moments, the common people can also become pawns to restrain the Cao army. Lord, Liang has no other choice. The next day, in the Cao army camp, as usual, Chen Mu and other cooking soldiers got up and were busy. He had already forgotten about last night's incident. In the main tent, Cao appeared exhausted and stayed up all night without even touching breakfast, only letting someone take it away. Su Chu, a fierce general, stood beside him, with generals such as Su Huang and Cao Hong on one side and strategists such as Jia Su, Cheng Yu, and Sun Yu on the other. They all couldn't understand why the situation of the Cao army was like this. Without waiting for them to ask, a scout rushed into the main tent and knelt down to report. Lord, the big deal is not good. General Cao Ren suffered a heavy blow in Xinye. In an instant, Cao had a splitting headache that he could hardly hold on to. Su Chu quickly stepped forward to help him, while other civil and military officials were all nervous. Lord. In the midst of the call, Cao slowly opened his eyes and sat steadily again, but his face turned pale as paper. He suddenly remembered the prophecy of the cook soldier last night. Cao Ren was indeed defeated in Xinye. Jia Su sat at the head of the strategist, with a slender figure, slender eyes, and sharp eyes like venomous snakes. He was dressed in a black robe and exuded a chilling aura all over his body. He glanced at Cao and was secretly puzzled. Does the Lord have long predicted that General Cao Ren would be defeated? The other strategists also looked at each other, seeing the same confusion in each other's eyes. Why send General Cao Ren on a mission even though he knows he will be defeated? The strategists were puzzled, unaware that Cao's shock came from an inconspicuous cook. Surprisingly, it has been proven that Chen Mu is indeed a talented person. Cao looked out of the main tent, thinking to himself. Soon, the disheveled Cao Ren returned without the former dignity. As soon as he stepped into the main tent, he knelt down on the ground. Lord, I apologize to you. Not only did I fail to capture Xinye, but I also lost almost all the 50,000 soldiers who went there. I request the Prime Minister to punish me. When Cao saw Cao Ren, he felt dissatisfied and wanted to scold him, but when he saw that he was injured, he could only sigh. Well, it's not your fault for this defeat, it's all because Zhuge Liang, who was just starting out, was too cunning. You get up. Cao Ren stood up, clenched his fists, and loudly requested. Lord, please give me another 30,000 soldiers and horses. I am willing to attack Xinye again. This time, I will surely conquer Xinye, defeat Liu Bei's army, and capture Kongming, that rural bumpkin, to present to the Prime Minister. Looking at Cao Ren in a fit of anger, Cao hated him for not being a good tool and angrily rebuked him. What's the use of attacking Xinye again? Kongming, that country bumpkin, is cunning. Knowing that our army is strong, he must have fled, unless he is a fool. Cao Ren had never expected this, and his mind was full of thoughts about defeat. After being exposed, he stood awkwardly there, speechless. Not only that, but I aspire to eliminate Liu Bei. Cao continued, he is a threat that I must eliminate. After a conversation with Chen Mu that night, Cao clearly realized that Liu Bei was his biggest enemy. In order to prevent any potential danger, it was necessary to eliminate Liu Bei as soon as possible. At this moment, Cheng Yu looked at Cao Ren and suggested. General Cao Ren, can you tell me about your experience in Xinye? In this way, we can better evaluate the strength of Liu Bei's army. Although this was equivalent to uncovering his own scars, Cao Ren did not hesitate and detailed how they fell into the trap in Xinya. First, the city ignited a raging fire, then the flood surged, and finally the ferry was intercepted. Everything seemed to have been premeditated. After listening, Cao was once again shocked. When Chen Mu bid farewell, he once said a prophecy drunkenly. The fusion of water and fire will undoubtedly lead to defeat. Chapter 6. Chasing Liu Bei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Isn't this exactly the strategy that Cao Ren experienced? The fire and flood almost wiped out the entire 50,000 Cao army. He even anticipated this. It's simply extraordinary. Chen Mu's position in Cao's heart has once again risen. After listening to Cao Ren's tragic defeat, the faces of all the strategists and generals were solemn. In their eyes, the former Liu Bei army was just a stronger ant. If it weren't for the Cao army's disregard for the enemy, Liu Bei would have been unable to survive to this day. At this moment, Liu Bei's army has undergone a transformation and even brought pressure to Cao's army, which is the deterrent power of top strategists. I have long heard that Zhuge Liang's wisdom is extraordinary, almost supernatural. Now it seems that the rumors are indeed true. Lu Yi and Lu Xiang said in a deep voice, with a hint of admiration in their words, because if it were him, it would probably be impossible to plan such a strategy. Humph, he's just a newcomer from the countryside. I don't believe he really has non-human skills. Qing Yu retorted that he has always been stubborn and arrogant, unable to hear others praise his opponents, especially Zhuge Liang. Yang Xiuze looked arrogant and snorted coldly. A Zhuge Liang scares you like this? Can't so many of us still defeat him as a country bumpkin? Lu Yi is busy trying to smooth things out. There is no intention of disdain, I just want everyone to understand that Zhuge Liang is not an easy person to deal with. Humph. Cheng Yu and Yang Xiu both snorted, the former dissatisfied with their emphasis on Zhuge Liang, and the latter dissatisfied with Zhuge Liang's intelligence. Sun Yu secretly sighed in his heart that it was well known that Cao loved talents and had many advisors under his command. However, he did not know that each advisor had the unique arrogance of a talented person, and it was not easy to control these people. Cao already had a headache, and when he heard the strategists arguing again, he immediately became irritable. All right, stop making noise. The big tent immediately quieted down. Cao immediately turned to Jia Su, who had been silent all along, and asked. Wenhe, what do you think? Jia Su looked sickly with a hint of coldness. He chuckled and said. I don't think General Cao should have left Xinya City last night. Cao Ren widened his eyes. Don't leave. Are you waiting to be burned alive? Jia Su continued calmly. Since Liu Bei's army has set traps in the city, there must be a way out. If General Cao Ren were to wholeheartedly defend himself, even if Zhuge Liang's strategies were ingenious, they would be impossible to implement. So, how many people will be buried in the sea of fire? Cao Ren's face was full of anger, and if he hadn't retreated at that time, there might have been more soldiers sacrificed. Jia Su sneered. Liu Bei's army is only a few thousand soldiers and horses, while Zhao Yun's army in the city is no more than 1,000 people. If General Cao fights hard, he will be able to turn the tide. That was just a disastrous victory. Cao Ren's voice became much lower. A disastrous victory is also a victory. In the face of victory or defeat, what's the point of a slight injury or loss? Jia Su's casual words made everyone present shudder. Not caring how cruel the means are, only seeking victory, Jia Su's reputation as a poisonous warrior truly lives up to its reputation. At this moment, Cao spoke. The matter has become a foregone conclusion and cannot be changed. The key lies in how to respond in the next step. Qing Yu, can you tell me? He doesn't like to use Jia Su's strategies, after all, most of them are ruthless methods. Jia Su is happy and quiet, as long as he can protect himself, he can do anything. Cheng Yu was ordered to stand up and looked around the generals in the tent, speaking with a heavy tone. Lord, I think Liu Bei and his team will flee to Jiangzhou. Why do you say that? Cao Ren asked on the side. After all, Fancheng is closer to Xinya and is the ideal retreat place for Liu Bei's army. Cheng Yu continued. Even if Liu Bei's army enters Fancheng, they will not be able to resist our army's attack and will instead trap themselves. With Zhuge Liang's intelligence, he would never do such a thing. Within Jingzhou, only Jiangxia can go. Everyone nodded in agreement. Cheng Yu turned to Cao Cao and continued, saying. Lord, Jiangxia is an important town in Jingzhou, where most of Jingzhou's wealth and grain are stored. If Liu Bei's army really arrives in Jiangxia, it will inevitably lead to accidents and become an obstacle to our army. Cao Cao frowned slightly and realized the seriousness of the problem. He knew that what Liu Bei needed most at the moment was the opportunity to develop and grow, and that opportunity was in Jiangxia. So he scanned the crowd inside the tent and asked, Do you have any good ideas? Cao Cao held his forehead and looked at the people inside the tent. If you have any ideas, feel free to speak up. Prime Minister, there's no need to say anything else. Just kill them directly. Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang, no one will be left behind. The speaker was the one-eyed Xiahou Dun and Xiahou Yuan. He has a burly figure, and although he covers his blind eyes with a black cloth, it actually makes him appear even more powerful. He tasted Zhuge Liang's first fire at Bowangpo, which led to a disastrous defeat and still lingers in his heart to this day. But his ability to say so also proves his bravery, but his personality is impatient and his intelligence is slightly inferior. Cao Ren quickly clasped his fists. Lord, I still insist. If you give me more troops, I will be able to capture the enemy leaders Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang alive. Cao Cao glanced at the two of them, his eyes filled with helplessness. Without responding, he turned to look at the nearby soldiers. Jia Su, Sun Yu, Cheng Yu, Lu Yi and other think tanks are all pondering deeply at this moment, never allowing themselves to be defeated by a novice Zhuge Liang. Lu Yi took the lead in speaking. Lord, it can now be concluded that Liu Bei's army will definitely retreat to Jiangxia, which is a strategic location guarded by Liu Biao's eldest son Liu Qi. He has a close relationship with Liu Bei. If Liu Bei could establish himself in Jiangxia and rely on Zhuge Liang's wisdom, Jiangxia would be invincible. With food and supplies, Liu Bei can recruit more soldiers, which will be a huge obstacle for us to seize the 9 counties of Jingxiang. So, the current best strategy is to immediately intercept Liu Bei and prevent him from retreating into Jiangxia. This can both eliminate Liu Bei and successfully capture Jingzhou. Although the strategy may seem straightforward, Lu Yi analyzed the situation first and then proposed a plan, which can be regarded as a model of strategist. His proposal was exactly what others were thinking, and everyone nodded in agreement. At this moment, a sound came from outside the camp. Report. Subsequently, the messenger entered the tent and knelt down on one knee, reporting loudly. Report to the Prime Minister, Liu Bei's army has withdrawn from Xinya overnight, and Xinya city is indeed empty now. Just. What's wrong? Cao Ren stood on the side, eager to ask. The messenger continued. But Liu Bei also took away 100,000 people from Xinya. Leading the people. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the account was stunned. When fleeing, carrying so many people will only slow down the pace of travel, which is of no benefit. No, there's another benefit, which is to shape Liu Baron's reputation. Sitting at the top, Jia Su seemed to have understood everyone's thoughts and slowly spoke up. Upon hearing this, Cao Cao's originally gloomy eyes lit up instantly, and his breathing became more relaxed. Okay, since he wants a good reputation, I'll bear the blame. Time waits for no one, immediately mobilize elite soldiers to pursue Liu Bei. For Cao Cao, reputation is not crucial, but it cannot be left with a lasting reputation. Therefore, he added, after catching up with the people, do not attack them. Xiahou Dun immediately stood up and passionately said, Prime Minister, please let me go. Liu Bei, this hypocritical thief with big ears, has forgotten our kindness to him. I will bring his head back to see you. Chapter 7. If you want to reject the Cao bandits, you must first solidify Jingzhou. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Cao Ren is also unwilling to be outdone. Lord, let me go. I want to avenge the shame of Xinye. Looking at the two fierce generals, Cao Cao had already made a decision in his heart. Zixiao, you ran away last night and got injured. Let's take care of your injuries first. Yuan Rang and Miao Kai, you two brothers, go deal with Liu Bei. We must completely eliminate him this time. Xiahou Dun and the generals beside him quickly stood up and respectfully answered. Obey me. The other general was Xiahou Yuan, known as the Flying General. Xiahou Miaocai was also Xiahou Dun's cousin, known for his swift marching. It is known as 1,000 miles in 3 days, 2 journeys in 6 days. Based on this ability, Cao Cao appointed him to join Xiahou Dun in dealing with Liu Bei. After receiving orders, the two immediately went to the campus to point out their troops, and soon led tens of thousands of elite soldiers to set off like a storm. 20 miles outside Shinana Castle. A dark army was rushing along, but many civilians had no mounts and could only walk. Moreover, there are many elderly people, women, and children in the team, and their overnight rush is limited to only 20 miles. At this moment, many people are exhausted and struggling to move forward. Usually marching for 40 miles a day, while the rapid march reaches 100 miles, and they only walked a short 20 miles, which was indeed extremely slow. Liu Bei stood in front of the people, his face full of anxiety, but he knew that the people had done their best, so he ordered everyone to rest. At this moment, Zhuge Liang came to Liu Bei's side and looked at the exhausted people, sighing. Lord, at this speed, we are too slow. Once Cao Cao becomes aware, he will definitely send troops to chase after us, and we must leave as soon as possible. So, we must abandon these people. To console Liu Bei, he continued. My lord, there's no need to worry too much. After Cao Cao catches up with the people, he shouldn't do anything to them. Therefore, even if he keeps them, their safety doesn't need to be too worried. Liu Bei sighed lightly and pondered to himself. The feudal lords were in dispute over land, cities, and the people. If I have no place to stand, only the name of benevolence in the hearts of the people cannot be discarded. Moreover, as long as there are the people, no matter where they go, they can quickly gather a capable army. Nevertheless, he did not express these thoughts directly, but instead said with a sorrowful expression. The people are willing to walk with me, how can I bear to abandon them? Moreover, Cao Cao is ruthless and ruthless. His previous defeat must have made him hate me to the bone. He may vent his anger on the people and repeat the tragedy of Shuzhou. I still remember that scene vividly, so I cannot abandon these people. The people around were moved and shed tears when they heard Liu Bei's words. Uncle Huang, we don't want to follow Cao Cao either. We are all willing to follow Uncle Huang. Oath to follow Uncle Huang to the death. The response of the people deeply moved Liu Bei. Don't worry, as long as you are willing to follow me, I will never abandon you. Zhuge Liang was also deeply moved and quickly said. With such a compassionate heart, my lord will surely achieve great success. However, despite speaking passionately, Liu Bei knew that if he did not abandon the people, he could be caught up with by the Cao army at any time, and at that time there was only one path to destruction. So he asked. Can the military strategist have a clever plan to help us safely overcome this crisis? Zhuge Liang pondered for a moment, his heart filled with helplessness. Even if he had 1,000 clever strategies, a clever woman would not be able to cook without rice, and the current situation of Liu Bei's army was simply impossible to implement. So he arched his hand and proposed. The only way currently is to send someone to Jiangxia and ask Prince Liu Qi to send troops to pick him up. Cao Jun and Liu Bei were shuttling in pursuit, while in the Jiangdong area south of the Yangtze River, they had already learned about the changes in Xinye. So, officials from Jiangdong gathered one after another to discuss future strategies. In the main hall, civil and military officials were lined up on both sides, and the man sitting at the top was a burly figure with blue eyes and purple beards, who was the ruler of Jiangdong, Sun Quan. The young man in the first place on the left is handsome, with rosy lips and white teeth. His aristocratic temperament cannot conceal his smile at the corner of his mouth, and he is dressed in white armor, showing even more heroism. The first person on the right has a dignified appearance, a gentle demeanor, a trace of beard on the chin, hidden and not revealing, dressed in a deep blue robe with a bun on the head. These two people are the pillars of Jiangdong, with the renowned Zhou and Zhou Gongjin on the left, who are now the metropolitan governor of Jiangdong and in charge of all military affairs. After Sun Quan ascended the throne, his trust in Zhou never wavered. Lu Su and Lu Zijing on the right are also Sun Quan's confidants, but he is too steady and unwilling to take risks, which sometimes makes Sun Quan quite dissatisfied. Under Zhou, there were numerous generals such as Cheng Pu, Huang Gai, and Gan Ning. Under Lu Su, strategists such as Zhang Zhao, Zhang Ji, and Zhuge Jin gathered together. It is said that the people in Jiangdong are outstanding, and there are many civil and military officials. Everyone, what is your opinion on the Jingzhou incident? Sun Quan asked slowly. To other places, Jiangdong can ignore them, but Jingzhou is the throat of Jiangdong. Without Jingzhou, only the natural danger of the Yangtze River remains, and they cannot be careless in their treatment. Everyone knows that Cao Cao's target is not only Jingzhou, but also Jiangdong, which faces across the river. Zhou took the lead in speaking and bowed his hand, saying, Lord, the battle between Cao's army and Liu Bei's army is raging, and it is a good opportunity for me to send troops to Jiangdong. While they have no time to spare, let's go straight to Jingzhou and reap the benefits of the fishermen. Sun Quan nodded slightly, but did not say anything. Lu Su walked out from the other side and raised objections. My lord, I think it's not appropriate. It is not easy to rely solely on Liu Bei's army to contain the Cao army. Even if they win temporarily, it will be difficult to resist the subsequent attacks of the Cao army. If Jiangdong gets involved in Jingzhou, he will only become a thorn in Cao Cao's eye. Although I am skilled in water warfare in Jiangdong, I have not been able to resist the iron cavalry of the Cao army on land. Once the Cao army eliminates Liu Bei, they will definitely launch an attack on us. Advancing into Jingzhou at this time is not a wise move. Old Minister Zhang Zhao also stood up to support the proposal. My lord, the old minister also believes that it is not advisable to venture into Jingzhou. There is a natural danger in the Yangtze River in the east of my river, and it is easy to resist the Cao army with a natural barrier. If we go to Jingzhou to confront the Cao army, it would be like attacking their strengths with our own shortcomings. Upon hearing this, Zhou sneered and chuckled lightly. Do you think that Cao Jun's capture of Jingzhou will lead to peace? Jingzhou is the gateway to our Jiangdong region. Once it is lost, the Cao army can march straight in. Instead of waiting for a change, it's better to take the initiative. As soon as the words finished, someone immediately agreed. The governor's words are absolutely true. Even on land, the children of Jiangdong are not afraid of anyone. The speaker is a man in his 30s. Wearing feathers on his head, hanging a bell on his waist, and wearing a gorgeous robe with a hint of exaggeration, this person is Gan Ning, Gan Xingba, the Jin Fan thief. Lu Su shook his head gently. This is not the best strategy. Knowing that Cao Cao had long coveted Jiangdong, we should set the battlefield on the Yangtze River in order to fully leverage our advantages. Moreover, we can also leverage Liu Bei's power to join forces with them to fight against Cao Cao. Lu Zijing is right. Counselor Gu Yongzhan said, with the natural danger of the Yangtze River, the Cao army is not to be afraid. Of course, it would be best if we could avoid conflicts with Chao's army and maintain peace in Jiangdong. P.S. Kneel down and beg all the big shots to send some flowers. Monthly Pass. Recommended. Chapter 8. Prime Minister Cao, the Heroes of the World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gu Yong's words made many civil servants nod silently. These people all grew up in Jiangdong and came from prestigious families in Jiangdong. They have no ambition to dominate the world, they only want to protect the land of Jiangdong well. Therefore, their purpose is to not fight, and peace and security are blessings. Zhang Zhao spoke up and said, I believe that we should prepare with both hands. On the one hand, we should test Cao Cao's intentions. If he has no intention of Jiangdong, he doesn't need to care. On the other hand, as Liu Zijing said, seeking an alliance with Liu Bei. Humph, cunning, you're so cowardly. Sun Quan was quite dissatisfied with Zhang Zhao, as he represented the Jiangdong aristocratic family, whose power was intertwined in Jiangdong. Sun Quan must balance the major families, otherwise they will think that they are in charge of Jiangdong. However, complaints can only be hidden in the heart, but the mouth says. Test Cao Jun's intentions. Do they still need to test their intentions? It's almost written on their faces. Zhou Yu immediately interfaces. My lord is right. The Cao army is like fierce tigers and wolves, ambitious and will never be satisfied with just Jingzhou and Xianyang. But I believe there is no need to ally with Liu. With my strong navy in Jiangdong, Chao's army is not afraid to invade. I am determined that Gan Xingba will completely destroy Chao's army on the water. Gan Ning also interjected. Lu Su raised another objection. Since everyone believes in fighting against Cao Cao, it is wiser to win over allies. By enhancing the strength of Jiangdong, even if Liu Bei could only restrain Chao's army, he could still create opportunities for our army. Furthermore, Liu Bei's existence can still disperse the Cao army's offensive, why not do it? Zhou Yu's eyes flickered. When the overall situation becomes clear, Liu Bei is unable to compete with Jiangdong at all. At that time, seizing Jingzhou and Xianyang would be as easy as a palm. But it's still too early to discuss these things now. If Liu Bei is directly eliminated by Cao Cao, everything will be empty talk. So, I think we still need to rely on our Jiangdong navy. There were many discussions in the conference hall, but a consensus has been reached that there will be a war against Chao's army sooner or later, and this war will definitely take place over the Yangtze River. After all, the Jiangdong navy is unparalleled in the world, and no one can surpass them on the water. As for Liu Bei, let's first protect ourselves. Sun Quan looked around and saw them arguing fiercely, with a faint smile on their lips. He was looking forward to such a scene, where generals and officials were restrained from each other, and wealthy families were also balanced against each other. In this way, the ruler of Jiangdong can appear more majestic. Alright, Commander-in-Chief is right. It's too early to discuss these things now. Only when Liu Bei stands firm under the attack of the Cao army can he be qualified to join forces with us in Jiangdong. At that time, we fought against Cao Cao together, repelled the enemy, and then explored the land of Jingxiang. Lu Su, the task of contacting Liu Bei has been entrusted to you, that's it. Late at night, in the camp of the Cao army, Cao Cao sat in a large tent, feeling uneasy in his heart. The strength demonstrated by Liu Bei cannot be underestimated. He is worried that if the Xiahou brothers cannot catch up, they will not be able to let the tiger go back to the mountain. If we cannot take Jingxiang in one fell swoop and instead let Liu Bei rise to power, it will be a huge obstacle for our army. We must plan countermeasures as soon as possible. He walked out of the tent and looked up at the bright moon, suddenly thinking of Chen Mu. Perhaps he will have a solution. Cao Cao changed into casual clothes, carrying a pot of wine in one hand and a plate of rabbit meat in the other, and only led Su Chu towards the cafeteria. "I don't know if he is here today." At the entrance of the cafeteria, Cao asked Su Chu to wait outside. He walked in alone and saw the figures in the cafeteria, feeling happy in his heart. Sure enough, it's here. Chen Mu is enjoying delicious food in the cafeteria again. As a cook, it is not difficult to get some food, but it is difficult to get some wine. After all, alcohol is only supplied to generals, and carrying is limited each time they go on a mission. They also need to consider the transportation of grain and grass, and the generals have a large capacity for alcohol. How much can be left? While chewing on a pancake and feeling bored, Cao appeared. It was the same night, and he couldn't see his appearance clearly. Chen Mu immediately recognized Cao as the person from last night, and Cao had no intention of revealing his true identity. After all, this kind of relationship now can make Chen Mu more happy. "Are you here? Is this for me?" Chen Mu stepped forward to take over the wine jar and praised it. "Where did you get this full jar from?" Cao smiled lightly and made up an excuse. "The general rewarded me, I secretly brought it for you to taste." "That's really great." Chen Mu laughed loudly and felt relieved. Accompanied by fine wine and delicious food, it seems to surpass immortals. "By the way, everything you said yesterday has come true. General Cao Ren was indeed defeated at noon, and as you said, water and fire blend together. Can you foresee the future?" Cao began to ask questions. Chen Mu took a contented sip of wine and poured a bowl for Cao. Answering with a light smile. "This is not predicting the future, but an early insight into the situation. Can marching and fighting be predicted?" Cao was very surprised. Chen Mu looked proud. Of course, any variable in war can lead to completely different outcomes. Xinye is just a small town with limited available resources, so it is not difficult to infer. Even considering natural factors such as wind direction and weather changes, the outcome of a war can be completely different. If we can gain a thorough insight into both the enemy and ourselves, combined with the environmental impact, the outcome will be as clear as engraved on a wooden board. Although the ending of burning Xinye was learned from historical records, could a casual guess lead to being held accountable? Cao was repeatedly amazed and secretly shocked in his heart. However, predicting the battle situation is not an easy task, as it seems that his subordinates do not have such exceptional talent. Since the gentleman has this opinion, why not inform Prime Minister Cao in advance? Perhaps it can prevent our army from suffering heavy damage. Chen Mu shook his head and sighed. "You are so naive. Can I directly tell the Prime Minister that our army's attack on Xinye is bound to fail? The Prime Minister is naturally suspicious. If I speak frankly, I'm afraid my life will be in danger." The 4 words, "You are so naive," stunned Cao. From childhood to adulthood, he had heard many insults, but Chen Mu's frank statement that he was foolish was still the first time. Cao pondered Chen Mu's words and murmured to himself. Am I really so suspicious? But after deep reflection, Cao had to admit that in such a situation, he might really have beheaded Chen Mu. He touched his nose and awkwardly smiled, saying, "Fortunately, I haven't exposed my identity, otherwise this kid would be so afraid of me and unwilling to tell the truth, which would result in a big loss." Seeing Chen Mu indulging in food without considering his image, Cao's sense of vigilance gradually subsided. "By the way, sir, how do you evaluate our Prime Minister Cao?" Hiccup. Chen Mu let out a belch of wine. "Speaking of our Prime Minister, he is not a hero." Cao's heart trembled, and a chill appeared in his eyes. Chen Mu, however, was completely unaware and continued to say. "Of course, he's not a hero either, but a traitor." After hearing these words, the cold light in Cao's eyes slowly dissipated. He also picked up his bowl and took a sip of wine. Follow-up question. Why did you say this? Oh, you're still not smart enough. Chen Mu casually joked. For the sake of the delicious wine and food you brought, I will tell you a good story. However, our conversation must not be heard by the Prime Minister, otherwise I won't be able to chop off 10 heads. PS, kneel down and beg all the big shots to send some flowers. Monthly Pass. Recommended. Chapter 9. Chen Muxian's 3 Strategies, Admire and Admire. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Cao chuckled inwardly. The Prime Minister Cao, whom you were afraid of, is sitting across from you right now. But he pointed to the sky and then to the ground, laughing. Heaven knows and earth knows, you know and I know. Chen Muxian couldn't drink to his heart's content, so he decided to pick up the wine jar and indulge in drinking. A true hero, with a broad mind and a reputation beyond ordinary people. Unfortunately, such people are too upright and often end up with tragic endings, just like Xiang Yu in ancient times. Xiao Xiong harbors ambition and is talented. Those who are not exceptional in strength cannot be called Xiao Xiong. But most warlords are only suitable for dominating one side. Once their power increases, their personality flaws will become apparent, becoming cruel and domineering, making it difficult to achieve great success. Cao was mesmerized and quickly asked. What does that treacherous man mean? Chen Mu gave a gentle smile. A wise man in the world, a prime minister standing alone, a so-called wise minister in a prosperous era, a fierce hero in a chaotic era, a combination of wisdom and courage, profound cunning, and never retreating in pursuit of goals. Judging solely from his control of the court and his use of the emperor to command the feudal lords, he is enough to be labeled as a traitor, not to mention his unpredictable behavior, with his methods being either ruthless or cunning, all determined by his heart and mind. In times of chaos, those who can be called Xiong must have great talents and strategies. With a strong army in hand, they can change the color of heaven and earth. In today's world, only Prime Minister Cao, who embodies all kinds of characteristics, is unique. Cao did not expect that Chen Mu would give him such a high level of praise. Although traitor may not sound like praise, with Chen Mu's interpretation, it seems that only these 2 words can interpret him. He secretly doubted whether Chen Mu had recognized his true identity, so he praised him in front of him. However, looking up, Chen Mu was already in a drunken state, and his words and actions showed a drunken demeanor. So he was convinced that it came from Chen Mu's heart. Upon receiving this praise, Cao's heart was filled with joy, as if drinking sweet and mellow wine. Cao received praise in person, and his joy was indescribable. This is not something that can be compared with a few flattery words. But he didn't forget the purpose of this trip. He needed to seek advice from Chen Mu on countermeasures. Sir, our army's attack on Xinye was unsuccessful. If we raise troops again, how should we proceed? Chen Mu waved his hand and shook his head, even showing a hint of disdain. No wonder you're not the commander. Chief. Liu Bei has already evacuated and is still waiting to be beaten. Cao remained speechless for a moment. Of course, he understood this point and only deliberately asked questions, only to be underestimated. And among his generals, few predicted that Liu Bei would retreat, thinking that after Liu Bei's victory, he would surely seize the opportunity to pursue. How wonderful it would be if all our generals had the insight of Chen Mu. Cao sighed for a moment and then asked. Since they have fled, our army will pursue them. If tens of thousands of troops chase after thousands of people, wouldn't it be easy? Humph. Chen Mu sneered. Half a jar of wine had been consumed and his mind was dull, but he couldn't help but blame the old general in front of him for his short-sightedness. Why are you so naive? To become the commander. Chief, one cannot just look at the present. I have said before that predicting the outcome of a war cannot rely solely on the analysis of both the enemy and ourselves. He let out a hiccup while holding on to the wine jar, feeling a bit drowsy, but his mouth still couldn't stop. Liu Bei's departure from Xinye was not a defeat, but an orderly retreat, and the soldier's mentality was completely different. Moreover, when running away, having more people can become a burden, while having fewer people can make one run faster. Cao Cao quickly interjected. I heard that Liu Bei and the people of Xinye retreated together, and the speed was greatly affected. Chen Mu sneered. As expected, Liu Bei will never abandon his name of benevolence and righteousness, which is also the foundation of his foothold in troubled times. So, do we have a chance to catch up and defeat Liu Bei? Cao Cao questioned. Stupid, it's hard to carve a rotten wood. I've taught you many times before. You need to consider the whole situation, not just the people. Chen Mu continued with a resentful expression on his face, saying that iron cannot turn into steel. Sergeant Liu Bei's morale is high, and our pursuit will only exhaust us, greatly weakening our combat effectiveness. What if he uses the people again to block our pursuit? Moreover, although Liu Bei had few soldiers, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun and others were all brave, and Zhuge Liang was also resourceful. In addition, Lu Qi from Jiangxia would definitely support him. So, there is a great possibility that Liu Bei will escape. Cao Cao pounded his thigh, his face full of helplessness. Can't we take this opportunity to completely solve Liu Bei? Chen Mu smiled faintly. Liu Bei is going to Jiangxia even if he tries his best, so let's just let him not go to Jiangxia, okay? Cao Cao was taken aback. How to do it? There are many ways. Chen Mu patted his chest. Which one do you want to hear? Sir, please explain everything, so I can also learn from it. Cao Cao appears humble at this moment, he is just like that, willing to humbly receive education. Chen Mu took another sip of wine and began to elaborate on his plan. Firstly, we can bribe Kai Mao and Zhang Yun. Don't underestimate them, the Kai family has a strong influence in Jingxiang, and they are the Kai family. Cao Cao frowned. If they are so important, wouldn't it be more difficult to bribe them? Money may not be effective for them. Chen Mu refuted. There's no need to be too formal, as long as the Prime Minister expresses his attitude. They were already dissatisfied with Liu Bei and Liu Qi and were on guard. If Liu Bei goes to Jiangxia to meet up with Liu Qi, he will become their great enemy. Kai's woman was ruthless and always wanted to get rid of Liu Qi, but unfortunately Liu Qi managed to escape to Jiangxia. Cao Cao nodded slowly. It's indeed a clever plan. Let the Kai family deal with Liu Bei for us, and they can also provoke internal conflicts, making it easier for us to occupy Jingxiang. Sir, do you have any other strategies? Chen Mu said slightly tipsy. The second strategy is to fight for Liu Qi and give him a rich official position and wealth. Just seize his weaknesses. He is afraid of the Kai family and promises that as long as he does not accept Liu Bei, we will help him deal with the Kai family. Whether to be the Lord of Jingzhou or accept Liu Bei, I believe he will make a wise choice. Cao Cao was slightly worried. If it doesn't work out, wouldn't it be ridiculed by Liu Bei instead? Chen Mu's face suddenly darkened. If it fails, then implement the third strategy, which is to spread rumors in Jingzhou that the Kai family is plotting to usurp the throne and kill Liu Biao. Cao Cao immediately understood that if this rumor spread, Kai sure would inevitably panic. By taking various measures to consolidate her position, Liu Qi will naturally become a thorn in her side. Liu Bei's trip to Jiangxia was actually to assist Liu Qi. The Kai family would definitely obstruct him crazily, and even take action against Liu Qi, provoking a beacon fire conflict in Jingzhou. The Kai family's plan over the years, seeing Liu Biao gradually weaken, how could they show mercy? What a ruthless plan. It seems that you are almost the same as Jia Su. Cao Cao was secretly amazed in his heart. Chen Mu's strategy was like that of Jia Su who had planned it, causing Wang Yun's death, Lu Bu's displacement, Chang'an chaos, and countless casualties. Chen Mu was talking incessantly at this moment, and before he could ask, he continued. If this plan fails, you can also send spies to infiltrate the people following Liu Bei. Spreading rumors of Liu Bei's intention to occupy Jiangxia made Liu Qi fearful and hesitant to accept Liu Bei. If it doesn't work, take advantage of Liu Bei's entry into Jiangxia to find an opportunity to assassinate Liu Qi. Even if he doesn't succeed, let Liu Bei bear the suspicion of wanting to kill Liu Qi. In this way, the relationship between the two will inevitably break down, and even turn against each other. At that time, without the need for Cao Jun to take action, Liu Qi would probably be killing Liu Bei. After all, he is now the ruler of Jiangxia. After hearing this, Cao stood still in place. These strategies were like free gifts, one by one before his eyes, and he only needed to choose one to execute. How lucky it would be to have such a smart person around me. He carefully savored the strategies proposed by Chen Mu, and every one had the possibility of implementation, but each one pointed directly at Liu Bei's dead end, which made people shudder. These strategies seem to have been brewing and matured, indicating that Chen Mu has always been thoughtful about them. With him on his side, he will definitely be able to solve his problems. Fortunately, Chen Mu is now in my hands, and I cannot let him serve others. P.S. Kneel down and beg all the big shots to send some flowers. Monthly Pass. Recommended. Chapter 10. Awkward Moments of Cao Cao's Think Tank. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cao Cao was deeply shocked by the strategy offered by Chen Mu. Just as he was about to inquire further, he saw Chen Mu lying drunk and sleeping by the wine jar. Ah! It's all so good. Unable to ask any more questions, Cao Cao immediately stood up and left, hurriedly returning to his camp and summoning civil and military officers overnight. At the time of ugliness, everyone was awakened from their sleep, thinking that a major change had occurred and their faces were all flustered. Prime Minister, what happened? Sun Yu tidied up his clothes, walked into the tent, and immediately asked questions. Cao Cao scanned the crowd, gesturing for them to calm down first. I have called you here to carry out several tasks. Cao Ren rubbed his head and asked in confusion. Prime Minister, haven't we already sent troops to pursue Liu Bei? Do you have any further orders? Cao Cao silently sighed, comparing Cao Ren with Chen Mu, and couldn't help but sigh. The leading general is not as good as a cook soldier. However, how many Chen Mu can there be in the world? If the pursuit of Liu Bei fails, do you have any alternative plans? Generals such as Cao Ren and Su Huang frowned one after another, never considering the possibility of not catching up with Liu Bei. As generals, when following Cao Cao, they are accustomed to following orders and acting accordingly. Cao Cao ordered a pursuit, so they went after him and went all out to execute the order, so this question left them at a loss for a moment. The strategists were pondering one after another, obviously they had already considered this issue. Some even have ideas, but they haven't expressed them clearly, waiting for Cao Cao's instructions. Humph, generals should think carefully. If you're like this, how can you rest assured to lead the army alone? Cao Cao appears to be blaming, but in reality, he is full of care. Then, he looked around the crowd with a serious expression. Liu Bei is likely to escape, we must be fully prepared. Liu Bei's reliance is just Jiangxia. As long as his retreat is cut off, he has nowhere to escape and can only be captured with his hands tied. Liu Yi agreed and said, the Prime Minister is wise. Yang Xiu stood aside with a contemptuous expression on his face, thinking to himself, I had already anticipated this, but I didn't speak up. Since the Prime Minister mentioned it first, then I should also propose my strategy. Zhuge Liang, see how I can make you know where to hide. Just as he was about to speak, Cao Cao continued to say. Firstly, we need to bribe Kai Mao and Zhang Yun. The Kai family is a prominent family in Jingzhou, and Kai Mao is also a relative of Liu Biao by marriage. Being at odds with Liu Qi of Jiangxia, it is crucial to win them over. Send someone to inform them that as long as they surrender to me, high officials and generous salaries are no problem. If not, wait for the day when the city is destroyed and people die. Sun Yu immediately arched his hand in response. Yes, Prime Minister, I will arrange for someone to leave overnight immediately. Not busy, wait until I finish speaking. Cao Cao waved his hand to signal. Yang Xiu's face became solemn, as the strategy proposed by Cao Cao was exactly what he intended to propose, and his inability to demonstrate his intelligence made him feel quite disappointed. He has always been arrogant, but now he has a talented Zhuge Liang who has ignited his competitive spirit. Although he is not at odds with Zhuge Liang, he still yearns to surpass him in intelligence and strategy. I have another suggestion, however. Yang Xiu's words had not yet been spoken, and Cao Cao had already proceeded to deploy the next step. Similarly, we also need to contact Lu Qi and tell him that after Liu Biao's death, I will help him ascend to the throne of Jingzhou and deal with the Kai family as long as he does not accept Liu Bei, otherwise our army will directly attack Huanglong and capture Jiangzhou. Yang Xiu widened his eyes. If these two strategies were implemented simultaneously, they would inevitably produce unexpected results. This was his strategy that he had been pondering all day, but to his surprise, Cao Cao had already thought of it. He felt a deep blow for a moment. The other strategists nodded in agreement. Two-pronged approach. Liu Bei's wings are difficult to fly, the Prime Minister is wise. Chen Yu couldn't help but praise. However, Cao Cao did not stop there. In addition, envoys were dispatched to spread rumors in Jingzhou that the Kai family had ulterior motives. Be sure to send more people, I want this news to spread throughout Jingzhou within a few days. The strategists present are all outstanding among the people. As soon as Cao Cao finished speaking, they understood the mysteries and were all amazed. Once Jingzhou becomes turbulent, not only can they seize the opportunity to eliminate Liu Bei, but they will also easily seize Jingzhou. Yang Xiu's face turned pale, and he felt a sense of intelligence being suppressed, with deep regret in his heart. How could I not have thought of this? Jia Su, who was sitting at the top of Cao Cao's hands, had a glint in his eyes and secretly glanced at Cao Cao. This strategy seemed to have some of his style. Furthermore, several daring death squads were arranged to infiltrate the people and spread rumors of Liu Bei's attempt to cause chaos in Jiangzhou. We need to take action as soon as possible to prevent Liu Bei from escaping. At the same time, they were instructed to assassinate Lu Qi if they entered Jiangzhou. Even if you fail, you must firmly believe that it was Liu Bei who instructed you. Cao Cao finished speaking in one breath, looked around the crowd, and asked in a deep voice. Do you all understand? The big tent was silent. Not only the strategists, but also generals such as Su Huang and Chao Ren were stunned. This series of layouts is enough to push Liu Bei into a desperate situation. Jia Su, Sun Yu, and others looked up at Cao Cao, unable to believe that this was a strategy he had conceived in a short period of time. They are intertwined, both ruthless and gentle, making them feel inferior. The most arrogant Yang Xiu almost stood unsteadily after listening to all the arrangements made by Cao Cao. In contrast, his two strategies seem insignificant. Is this really the Prime Minister's idea? Now it seems that the Prime Minister's intelligence far exceeds mine by 10 times. Chen Yu first spoke up, sincerely bowing his hand in praise. The Prime Minister's wisdom deeply admires us. Prime Minister Gao Ming. Others also joined in. At this moment, Cao Cao's heart was filled with a sense of achievement. Although these strategies did not come from him, he still felt gratified by the admiring gaze of his advisors. These think tanks used to be full of arrogance, and now they look like this. Even Cao Cao has seen them for the first time. In an instant, everyone retreated and immediately began to select suitable candidates, hastily executing Cao Cao's instructions. The generals and strategists of the Cao army stayed up all night. A few days later, in the government office of Jiangxia City, Lu Qi received a secret letter from Liu Bei seeking help. He immediately summoned his courtiers and soldiers. Ladies and gentlemen, Uncle Liu Bei once had a life-saving kindness towards me. Now that he is facing difficulties, how can I stand idly by? Therefore, I will dispatch all ships to rescue Uncle Huang and ensure their safe arrival in Jiangzhou. However, a general of Lu Qi stood up with a worried expression on his face. Young master, you must not let Liu Bei enter the city. He is like a fierce tiger to you. Lu Qi's gaze stiffened and he scolded. Shut up, don't talk nonsense. The person knelt straight down. Young master, what I'm saying is from the bottom of my heart. Liu Bei is good at winning people's hearts. Once he enters Jiangzhou, won't this become his territory? Moreover, Liu Bei had thousands of elite soldiers under his command, and Guan Yu and Zhang Fei were both heroic and invincible. Plus that cunning Zhuge Liang, I'm afraid they will turn the tables. Lu Qi hesitated briefly. Can Jiangxia city really accommodate two masters? But he immediately said firmly, well, there's no need to mention this matter again. Uncle Huang is benevolent and will never do anything that betrays his promises. Do as I say, set off immediately without delay. P.S. Kneel down and beg all the big shots to send some flowers. Monthly pass. Recommended.